Hello everyone, welcome to part 3 of Why I Hate the CGI series. So in part 2 I talked about the Magic Railroad as well as seasons 6 through 8. We still have more to cover from the Sharon Miller era, but we're hopefully going to get to the CGI series, which is my main goal to review. I just want to talk about the model series because it's better than the CGI series in my opinion. Alright, we still have more to cover for the Sharon Miller era, so let's continue. So we talked about season 8, but there's more to the Sharon Miller than meets the eye. Now we move on to 2005, and we get to Thomas's second movie in Calling All Engines. Before we start, I actually thought I'd say I forgot to say a few things last part. So I forgot to say that no new characters were introduced in season 8, which was weird. And another thing is that Splatter and Dodge, I like them more than Devious Diesel. Devious Diesel lives up to his name. He's one of my least favorite characters because every time Diesel does something bad, he usually gets sent away by Sir Topham Hatt. But for some weird reason, Diesel keeps coming back. I don't know why that is, I just find that very weird. Devious Diesel isn't too bad of a character, but I find that weird about him. He does appear in Calling All Engines, and if you don't know what Calling All Engines is, it's basically this movie, which is Thomas's second movie, his first being The Magic Railroad. But this movie is about Thomas and his friends, who all get tasked to build one of the biggest jobs ever. It's called building an airport for airplanes, but along the way, they usually don't get along with the Diesels. There's like this fight between the Diesels and the Steamies, which escalates to work not getting done. But then they find out that working together can get the job done. So there are a few things that I don't like, and there are a few things I like. Let's talk about what I like about this movie. The only thing I seem to like about Calling All Engines is the fact that Sharon Miller actually did something good. I will congratulate Sharon Miller for this, because she actually brought back Diesel 10 and Lady. Now that was very, very amazing. I like Lady more. She's one of my favorite characters. And what's interesting is that she worked with Rusty. And sad thing is that she only appeared in Thomas's dream. Like, I do wish that Lady could have gotten more screen time because she had so much potential as a character. She only appeared in like 2 movies, and she never actually had any episodes dedicated to her. Diesel 10, on the other hand, appears more often. And Derek actually made a cameo in Calling All Engines. At first, I thought Derek would only appear in 1 episode because we never actually hear him spoke, and there are no more episodes dedicated to him. But he did make a cameo in Calling All Engines, which I find very interesting. Alright, so now we go on to season 9. As I said, no new characters were introduced in season 8. So to make up for it, Sharon Miller actually introduced a few new characters, like Proteus, Mighty Mac, Molly, Neville, and Dennis. My only favorite character from the Sharon Miller era is Molly. I like her design, I love her yellow paint, and I do feel kind of bad for her. Like, Emily laughed at her and said she wasn't very useful because she has to take empty cars. But Thomas actually helped Molly get confident, and that's what I like. Even though Thomas still acts like a child, that's one of my favorite episodes. That may be my only favorite episode from the Sharon Miller era. And what I liked least about Calling All Engines, this was the part I hated the most about it, is that Thomas doesn't look where he's going when he's pushing some trucks, and he accidentally bashes into like this tower thing and it falls over. And all the engines seem to get very angry at him. Like, oh, hold on. Thomas, what were you thinking? That's what my reaction was. Anyways, in 2006 to 2007, that's where things started to change. Series 10 through 11 had a brighter tone to it. However, the stories were still kind of mediocre because Thomas and his friends are out of character. Even the narrow gauge engines, for that matter. But that didn't stop them from introducing new characters like Rocky, Billy, Whiff, and Hector. Like, Billy's personality actually makes sense because he doesn't like Thomas telling him that he's a very bossy engine. Like, Billy will always say, "Stop telling me what to do, you're so bossy." But his personality actually makes sense. But Thomas is usually reliable and he does mean well in seasons 1 through 7. But in the Sheridan Miller era, he actually becomes more cheeky and it's pushed to its extreme. And it was at that point that the series wasn't actually likely going to improve from that point. But from my childhood, I actually seen more shows than Thomas and Friends. The very first Thomas episode I ever saw on TV was Thomas Gets Bumped from the Best of Thomas VHS, which I do have. But I actually did see more shows on TV, even though I'm a Thomas fan. To name a few, there were a few shows that were part of my childhood, like SpongeBob is my favorite Nickelodeon TV show, my second favorite being Jimmy Neutron. I also seen VeggieTales, The Wiggles, and I even seen a few Pixar movies like Monsters Inc., Toy Story, etc. How many of those shows have brought back nostalgia to you? Anyways, now on to season 12. This was one of the biggest changes in the model series, and this may be the last time we ever see the model series. So, in this video, I can't forget The Great Discovery. That was Thomas's third movie. The Great Discovery isn't one of my favorite movies because it's about Thomas the Tank Engine discovering this new place called Great Waterton, and Pierce Brosnan is actually the narrator. And there's a new character introduced named Stanley, who has like an arch smokestack, which makes him unique. And Thomas fears that Stanley's trying to replace him because he sees Stanley talking to Percy and his coaches Sandy and Clarabelle. Then he gets lost in the mines, and Stanley actually saves him, and they become friends. That isn't too bad, but it's not one of my favorite movies. Thomas and the Magic Railroad will always be better than Calling All Engines and The Great Discovery. And in season 12, this is where things started to change. And this is the first time we ever saw CGI. Now, we did still see model trains, but they actually gave them CGI faces, and now they actually talk. So their mouths actually move, but all the characters are still voiced by one person, which is Michael Brandon. I love Michael Brandon's narration, I just don't like how the episodes are written. And there are some episodes that might be poorly written, but I can't describe that as well. Anyways, they started using CGI faces. The model trains were still there, but it never actually was in full CGI, just the faces of the characters and the human characters. And unfortunately, the two new characters, Hank and Flora, actually appeared in only one episode. Now, I find that very sad. They had so much potential to be characters. So, I don't know what happened there. So, yeah. I thought it was kind of cool, though, that their mouths actually move when they talk, but season 12 isn't my favorite. I mean, I do like that Sharon Miller actually brought back Duck and Oliver, but what I found creepy the most is that Arthur doesn't have any eyes. And I still find cool that they brought back Duck and Oliver and Toad. Like, they didn't appear for a while. And we still got Donald, Douglas, and Harvey. So, yeah. The Sharon Miller era wasn't perfect. It's not bad or anything. I just don't like it. In my honest opinion. Because Thomas and his friends are out of character, and some episodes were like, meh, I'm not a big fan. Like, this Sharon Miller era almost killed the franchise. Like, no joke. Troublesome Junction actually pointed that out. If you want to see Troublesome Junction's review, then he did a review on the reboot and why he hates it. Alright? And apparently, everybody knows where this is going. Give me a few seconds. Now we move on to 2009. And this is where the series took a new route in animation. And it went even more downhill than it went before. So, we no longer had the model series. They were starting to use full CGI. Now, I was quite appalled at this. But let's move on to Hero of the Rails, which was the very first CGI movie. Hero of the Rails isn't too bad. I mean, I feel kind of bad for the character Hero. He's actually one of my favorite characters because Thomas actually tried to rescue him from scrap. Like, Hero was abandoned, he was left on a siding, He was very rusty, and Thomas actually decided to save Hero, but Spencer tries to tell the Fat Controller that he wants Hero to be scrapped, but Thomas comes to the rescue. Like, Thomas feels pretty heroic, but there's not enough characters, and in the end, Sir Top Hat says, "Why would I ever scrap the Master of the Railway?" I find that kind of funny at first, and Hero of the Rails isn't too bad, but when I heard that some people may not like it, as the years went by, I find it kind of average. It's not perfect, but it's not a bad movie. But when we get to season 13 through 16, my gosh, where do I even begin from that point? The CGI series is like, it's nowhere near as good as the model series. Like, they never use model characters. They're using full CGI. But there are a few things that tick me off. The one thing that ticked me off the most is that they got rid of a few characters. They got rid of a few characters to make way for the new characters like Arthur, Murdoch, Fergus, Molly, Neville, Dennis, Billy, Lady, Splatter, Dodge, George, Stepney. All of them have just left the show with no explanation as to why. And aren't a few of these characters kind of important? Anyways, there were a few episodes, and these episodes were like actually poorly written, because I can name one episode that was poorly written, which is Tickle Pink. It's a season 13 episode. And they also made some other movies like Misty Island Rescue, Day of the Diesels, and Blue Mountain Mystery. I have seen Misty Island Rescue, and hold on. The logging locos are some of the most hated characters in the Thomas fandom. Although, one thing I do quite like is that everyone has their own unique voice, so they're not all voiced by one person. But still, the CGI series is nowhere as good as the model series. Like, the CGI series is very awful. Like, I'm so appalled and angry at this. Even from Hero of the Rails, like, that wasn't too bad, but when they made Misty Island Rescue in season 13 and 16, oh my gosh. And I didn't actually watch Day of the Diesels and Blue Mountain Mystery because those movies are just terrible. Mostly Day of the Diesels. And I'm actually quite glad I never watched those two movies because I really do not like the CGI series. It ruined my childhood, in my opinion. But that isn't the only thing. So, actually, there is some good to come out of the CGI series, but we're running out of time. So stay tuned for part 3 when I talk about something that actually did happen, like a miracle happened in the CGI series, but we'll get to that later. So stay tuned for part 4 when we talk about that, as well as what actually made the CGI series very, very, very awful, and what ruined Thomas and Friends, and what ruined my childhood. So thanks for watching, and stay tuned for that on Tim 2009, and stay tuned for more videos. So what was your opinion about this? Do you agree with my opinion or do you disagree? Tell me in the comments below. But thanks for watching, and see you soon.